night on offer, most areas seeing below 0 temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions, some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday, and this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The way in which children are being driven online because we're not taking them seriously offline. And what we're tending to do is seeing the problems entirely on the social media, forgetting the fact that we've given up on children being able to work independently and play independently outdoors. We've basically created a world where the digital bedroom has become this go-to area for a lot of young kids. We've given up on old-fashioned parenting, where we try to cultivate their resilience. And now we blame everything, all the problems that occur online. You have to remember that if you take something like bullying, bullying, doesn't have to only take place online. It happens all the time, offline, in everyday life. But yet we only see the problem on the social media, and there's this obsession with the social media where every single problem that afflicts childhood is blamed on it. And that distracts us from actually understanding what we're doing wrong with children. So for me, and I hate when I see children with digital technology, when I see them with smartphones. I'm not a fan. I'm much more concerned about the fact that parents, use their digital phones when they're having dinner with their kids and giving very bad examples in relation to that. But the real problem, it seems to me, is offline, and that's why we got to crack the issue. So for me, the banning issue is entirely a headline-grabbing political gambit. And I think that we should be much more focused on the real problems rather than delude ourselves that anything will improve.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you and a very happy Friday. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We bring you all the very latest until 6 o'clock. Yesterday, the Labour Party caused global outrage by denying a full inquiry into the Oldham rape gang scandal. Today, I'll be joined by Greater Manchester councillor, a whistleblower, who claims that he was investigated by police when he raised concerns about failures to tackle this issue, particularly along lines of the ethnicity of those in question. And it'll be freezing cold this winter, according to the UK Health Security Agency, who have warned that the imminent cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death. We'll speak to some old people about what they're doing to keep warm, of course, after losing their winter fuel allowance. And today, Nigel Farage and his Reform MPs head to Leicester for the insurgent party's sold-out East Midlands conference. Farage is set to blast Kemi Badenoch's crazy reform conspiracies. And our political editor, Chris Hope, will be live from Leicester, and he'll be joined by the Red Wall Rottweiler, and that's Mr. Lee Anderson. Welcome to the show. It's fair to say it's all kicking off. Since the Labour Party yesterday denied there'll be the opportunity for a full national inquiry into the scandal that gripped Oldham. Elon Musk has got involved, Nigel Farage has got involved, Kemi Badenoch has got involved. Everybody is saying this simply isn't good enough. Well, today I'll be joined by a council whistleblower who said that when he tried to raise red flags, it was he who found himself on the receiving end of an investigation. And later in the show, I'll be joined by an inspiring single mum from Cornwall, never been involved in politics in her life, so moved by what's going on, so outraged by the political ineptitude to deal with it. She wants to organise a Million Women March to London. And hey, let's get a few blokes along while we're at it, to show the country we've simply had enough of the politicians, of the councillors, of the media, of the entire establishment burying its head in the sand about this issue, which is Britain's shame. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. But now here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you at 2 minutes past 3. The top story, well, Elon Musk's criticism of the UK government's response to grooming gangs has sparked a political row today. The billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on exploitation in Oldham. Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, has called for a national inquiry, saying justice for victims is long overdue. But Health Secretary Wes Streeting has hit back, calling Elon Musk's attack misjudged and misinformed, while urging him to help tackle the rape gangs.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
We're Streeting there, the Health Secretary. Well, the government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before any big changes take place. Wes Streeting, Health Secretary, again has said that independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but its final report won't arrive until 2028. The review, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people with everyday tasks like washing, eating and medication. However, the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, says the process needs to move much faster.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
In other news, a 7-month-old baby has died after a car lost control on a dual carriageway in Lincolnshire and then hit a tree, with police investigating whether the crash was linked to icy conditions. That comes as an amber weather alert warning for snow and freezing rain will bring hazardous travel conditions across much of England and Wales. That has been issued by the Met Office today. Temperatures are expected to fall as low as -8 degrees overnight. And the country has been hit by a blast of cold weather, with temperatures already falling as low as -5 degrees Celsius last night. Amber alerts are in place until the 8th of January. The number of patients in hospital with flu has quadrupled in the last month, according to new data from the NHS in England. There were just over 5,000 patients with flu in hospital on the 29th of December, up from just over 1,100 at the end of November. The figures also showed there were 4,102 patients in hospital with flu on Christmas Day, before it rose sharply by almost a quarter. The NHS has warned that the drop in temperatures across the UK, which has led to a rare health alert from the UK's Health Security Agency, could lead to continued pressure on the hospital service. And in the sport, Luke Littler says that it will be the stuff dreams are made of, if he can create history tonight by becoming the youngest ever world darts champion. Littler beat Stephen Bunting to book his place in the finals of the World's Darts Championship, which takes place tonight. The 17-year-old was favourite to progress to the final for the second year running and swept 39-year-old Bunting aside to win by 6-1 at Alexandra Palace in London. All the best to Luke Littler tonight. Well, those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
Thank you, Sam. Excellent as ever. Now to the grooming gang scandal, and Kemi Badenoch has demanded that the government launches an immediate inquiry into child exploitation in Britain, despite not doing that for 14 years in power. And this comes as Sir Keir Starmer is attacked over his handling of the Oldham grooming gang scandal when he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service, with Labour blocking an inquiry into his conduct at the time. Well, it's now emerged that Conservatives also rejected a national inquiry into grooming gangs back in 2022 when they were in government. Let's get more on this now with our national reporter, Charlie Peters, the reporter, really, who's got this story rolling around the world again. Charlie, it just has absolutely kicked off. Yesterday was busy. Today makes that pale in comparison. Elon Musk getting involved, calling this the worst mass crime against the British people ever, calling for people to be put in jail in British politics. This will not go away. And by Jove, Charlie, you've caused one hell of a furore.
Yeah, it's not every day you break a news line and the richest man in the world shares it, but that's exactly what's happened, and it has gone around like wildfire, as you say, Martin. And this latest development in the last couple of hours from Wes Streeting, the health secretary, he's saying that Elon Musk's comments have been misjudged and misinformed. He didn't specify which comments, but I imagine it's his stark criticism of Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, after we revealed that she had rejected, after a almost 4-month delay, a request from Oldham Council for a government-led inquiry. But Wes Streeting has said today that he is going to be working with the government to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. And that's in response, of course, to Kemi Badenoch coming out on the back of our exclusive story, saying that we need not just a review into Oldham, but a review around the entire country. But speaking to survivors, Martin, they always say the same thing to me. The ICSA report was not sufficient, OK? It mentioned Rotherham just once in 400 pages. It was tasked with looking at the grooming gang scandal, but it just did not go to towns and cities where there have been credible reports of this abuse going on. At GB News, we've compiled at least 50 different towns and cities where there have been successful prosecutions or indeed compelling testimony that we've seen to lead us to believe this sort of abuse has been going on for some time. And the independent inquiry just didn't go there. That was commissioned by the Conservatives, but many survivors believe that that inquiry just lost sight of its actual mission. It went astray. It didn't achieve what's needed. And so, unfortunately, there are now these new calls for a fresh inquiry to make up for what was missed before. So Labour really aren't escaping this row. It's going on. This is now day 3 of people focusing on this grooming gang scandal. The lid has well and truly blown off this story, having also throughout history just been what one journalist I've seen describing it as a conspiracy of murmuring. People have always spoken about it, but just not quite accurately, just not quite loud enough, and allowed the story and the crisis to roll on. But I do feel now, Martin, that after years of coverage, something has changed. The dam has well and truly burst. And I think that people in power and in the opposition from all sorts of parties know that this is not going away.
Charlie Peters, I think you're absolutely right. And it's extraordinary that it's taken a foreign national, Elon Musk, to really kind of put the cat amongst the pigeons by getting involved like this. Some people are criticising him for doing that. But look, we're having this conversation again. I myself was retweeted by Musk earlier. Strange thing to happen, because I just pointed out that an Oldham safeguarding officer, you know this story very, very well, Shabir Ahmed. He was actually jailed for 22 years for being a ringleader of a Rochdale rape gang. He was employed as a welfare rights officer by Oldham Council. He was on the payroll of this council, Charlie Peters, and that surely begs the question, how on earth could Oldham Council ever be trusted to mark its own homework when paedophiles were on the payroll? Surely that says we definitely must have a full, external, independent national inquiry that's politically neutral.
Yeah, well, that's precisely what the survivors in the town are saying. They just don't believe in the council to do the job. And that's why the council made that request directly to the Home Office, with Jess Phillips, of course, as we revealed, saying no. She said she understood the strength of feeling, but she believed it was up to Oldham to do its job. Now, I understand that Oldham Council will now reach out to Telford to try and understand how they did their report and repeat that process. But many survivors concerned that even with this amount of attention, it just won't be right again. Now, that appalling situation you just referred to, Martin, Shabir Ahmed, probably one of the most shocking revelations of the national scandal. That was revealed in a report conducted that looked only at 2011 to 2014. When people say there's already been an Oldham report, 3 years just is not sufficient. There are so many more avenues to explore, so many other travesties that need to be exposed. And frankly, as survivors always tell me when I speak to them in Oldham, they say that there are just more people who need to be held accountable. Shabir Ahmed certainly won't be the last.
Charlie Peters, you've been doing God's work this week. I really, really think you have been, mate. Thank you very, very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next hour. Charlie Peters, always a pleasure to call you a colleague. Thank you very, very much. And let's get some statements here. We've got one from the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, who responded to the council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the council executive, Phillips apologised for delays in responding, but maintained the local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. And she welcomed the council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivor. And Councillor Arood Shah, the leader of Oldham Council, said this: since October, we've been working on setting up that independent inquiry, liaising with Oldham survivors and also Telford Council, which conducted a similar inquiry. The independent inquiry will build on the findings of the Greater Manchester inquiry into non-recent safeguarding issues in Oldham. We're working closely with survivors and survivors' families to ensure that they don't just have a voice, but will have a central role in developing this inquiry. Well, amid the ongoing discussion around grooming gangs and child exploitation, a Conservative councillor in Thameside, that's the neighbouring area to Oldham, released a video of him challenging the council leaders over the figures in 2022. And let's take a listen.
The figures that I have quoted are from a Thameside Council presentation. In that presentation, which some of the members were there, it states on slide 3, which I have already provided to the police, and it says on that slide that in excess of 30 cases of child sexual exploitation take place in Thameside every single quarter. So that means, take that every quarter, that means 120 children each year are victims of CSE. OK? So, in Oldham, where they're currently doing an investigation.
Billington.
No, I am not going to finish. You've allowed that to go on. So in Oldham, they have
Councillor
had
Billington,
502 cases in the last 10 years.
For democratic
services,
Thameside,
given those figures,
it's
it's over 1,200, more than double.
It's an utterly astonishing situation. That was Tameside councillor Liam Billington, who was silenced in that meeting back in 2022. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now by councillor Liam Billington for the Conservative Party. Thanks for joining us. I just find it incredible that you were actually quoting facts. You're quoting data, and you were pointing out that other data wasn't recorded, such as that along ethnicity, or if it was, it wasn't supplied. And for demanding the truth, you found yourself on the receiving end of a police summary. Tell us more.
Yeah, so I was asked to, well, it all started from doing a tweet. Someone did a tweet about the Oldham inquiry and how the police basically ignore people on CSE or child sexual exploitation. And I quote tweeted that and said, why isn't anyone talking about Tameside? Because the figures are there. The council did a presentation which stated that in excess of 30 children every quarter are victims of CSE. And by doing that tweet, that angered the police to then demand that I go and visit them at the station.
But it was the truth. You were telling the truth. You were using their own data.
Exactly. And they said that they were acting off a anonymous complaint. But to this day, I still do not know who that anonymous complaint was or why they were monitoring my social media accounts. Because, again, there was no crime committed. You know, you look at, is it Alison Pearson from The Telegraph? And she was investigated for a non-hate crime. It very much felt like that, to be honest. And the police were trying to intimidate. But what was happening was, actually, it was all done in cahoots, because the following week there was a full council meeting. And because a colleague of mine, Councillor Ruth Welsh, wasn't able to come due to a family funeral, we then moved it to the following week. But that hadn't been passed to the Labour councillors. And they announced in the meeting that I was refusing to cooperate with a child grooming investigation, making out as if I was obstructing information about child grooming. So any member of the public watching that would think that I'm involved in child grooming, which is not the case at all. But that is the modus operandi of what GMP do. Because you look at Raja Mir, they put out a headline, man 48 arrested in connection with child grooming case. And it was nothing to do with being arrested for child grooming at all. But that's the thing that they want to put out. If you challenge these Labour councils, they will try and destroy your reputation. Okay, and it might sound like some crank, but this is what's happened.
On that point, and by the way, we have contacted the council for a comment. They haven't got back to us yet. But on that point, and others, such as the one I raised earlier about Shabir Ahmed, who was he was a safeguard warden, somebody employed by Oldham Council whose job was meant to be to protect children. Instead, Liam Billington, he ran the Rochdale rape gang. He was sentenced to 22 years in jail for his part on that. He was on the payroll at Oldham Council. With all of this in mind, do you have any faith whatsoever in there being a case for Oldham being allowed to mark its own homework? Why would they shame themselves? Why would they dig this all up? The human nature would be to try and bury the cats, surely. And so with that in mind, surely the only resolution, the only route forward, Liam Billington, is for a full, independent, transparent, apolitical national inquiry into this.
Absolutely. For years, there have been people that have been asking for an independent inquiry. It has always been blocked by Labour. They have never requested one. They've been in control of the council. They've lost control of the council now. The only reason why this request has come about from Oldham Council is because the council is in no overall control. They've lost 3 leaders over this issue. Yeah. There was Councillor Sean Fielding, who called it barefaced lies. He lost his seat. Then Arood Shah, she lost her seat. Then Amanda Chatterton, who said that in a council meeting that grooming didn't destroy the lives of these girls, or words to that effect. And that is reason why they shouldn't be allowed to mark their own homework. It also goes much deeper as well, because you look at the MPs in Oldham. So Angela Rayner, her old constituency boundaries, they covered Oldham. And the minister under her, Jim McMahon, he was leader of Oldham Council. So if this is an inquiry to come out, this is going to be very embarrassing for two very senior members of the Labour government. They do not want this information coming out because I'm telling you now, there is lots more, because there's the likes of Raj Amir, who I believe has only just scratched the surface on this.
OK, we have to leave it there. Thanks very much. And by the way, we're not implying that any of those names mentioned there were involved in this. And we have reached out to Tameside Council for a comment over that council meeting and things that have just been said there. We have not received a response from them yet. But of course, if we get that, we will bring it to you on today's show. Thanks for joining us there. That's Councillor Liam Billington. Thank you very much. Now, change of gear. If you didn't get everything on your Christmas list this year, how about £50,000 in tax-free cash in the new year? It really could all be yours in our biggest ever Great British giveaway. And here's all the details that you need to enter.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? £50,000 is an amazing amount of money, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up today, the Nigel Farage and his Reform MPs head to Leicester for the insurgent party's sold-out East Midlands conference, with Nigel Farage set to steam into Kemi Badenoch's crazy reform conspiracies. We'll also be joined by Lee Anderson. More next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Christopher Hope. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now we're joined now by Sophia Viraji, the co-founder of the Azealia Foundation, which was created due to the tragic passing of her 8-month-old daughter to leukemia. The foundation is doing some incredible work for children's cancer.
Yeah, some really incredible stuff. They've just launched a PhD even, where they're funding young doctors to specialise in childhood cancer, as, get this, I wasn't aware of this, it's one of the most underfunded areas in the NHS. So not many sectors choose to go down that route, unfortunately. The charity, the foundation, have donated over £1 million worth of equipment to hospitals as well, and we're delighted to welcome Sophia. You've turned a tragedy and grief into triumph, I guess, and something so inspiring. Just tell us about that. Do you recognise that in yourself and the work you're doing?
Yeah, I'm here to always honour my daughter and to always continue her name, her legacy, and to support all of these other children fighting against childhood cancer.
It was all over social media. I mean, you were, at one point, probably one of the most famous families in this country because of Azealia and Azalia's fight. When you look back now at that time, does it give you comfort that you had so many people behind you?
Absolutely. The community that we have got, the humanity that we've seen in the UK and all around the world, in fact, has really touched my heart, and that kindness, love and support has always been the backbone of carrying me through this, to give me hope, to give me belief, and it still inspires me and encourages me till today to continue to do that, to show that light, to show that courage and bravery.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back. Time is 3:27 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Nigel Farage will attend and host Reform UK's East Midlands Conference this evening in Leicester, with a poll published last month for the Sunday Times projected that Reform UK could now win a total of 72 seats in the event of a new general election. And we can cross now and speak live with GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, who's live from Leicester. Chris, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. So, what are we going to expect? I hear the event is sold out. Lots on the agenda. It seems Nigel Farage is gearing up to tune his guns onto Kemi Badenoch, blasting her perhaps about a potential legal challenge. And then, of course, there's a huge furore about Elon Musk getting involved in British politics. Shall we start with Kemi?
Hi, Martin. Yeah, welcome to Leicester here. We're seeing Nigel Farage appear later on tonight, a 1,000-strong rally. We're told by Reform UK it is sold out. It could have been sold out several times over if you talk to Nigel Farage. He's got all sorts of people ringing up saying, why can't I get in to him? He is no question, as we said before Christmas, he is the shiniest bauble on the Christmas tree in Westminster. He's the one attracting most attention, and that is for good and for bad. Now, you mentioned Kemi Badenoch. The Reform and the Tories are in some battle over the size of Reform's membership numbers. We know that they outstripped Boxing Day. That was questioned by Kemi Badenoch, and then Reform UK took journalists into their offices, showed them the back door to its systems, showing how these numbers are apparently real, valid people with addresses and postcodes and the like. So Nigel Farage will give his first formal reaction to what Kemi Badenoch said tonight. He said on social media an hour or so ago that an apology has not been forthcoming from Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, regarding her crazy conspiracy theories about Reform UK. He'll give us full response at Leicester tonight. That might be legal action. There's been talk before how Reform might go into battle with the Conservatives on the legal case, saying why are you saying these aren't real numbers? So that's on the front foot. But he's also facing questions, I think, Nigel Farage, about Elon Musk. Now, we know before Christmas, and in fact on Boxing Day, Farage did say that he's looking forward to working closely with Elon Musk. He said then that he is expecting maybe a big donation from Elon Musk. We know, of course, he went to Mar-a-Lago before Christmas, and he told us on GB News how he sat down with Musk and went through for an hour how Musk was able to target swing voters in that election in America in time. So he wants to use that to return Reform UK in a big way at the next general election. He's called him a bloody hero, and he said that he's expecting a reasonable sized donation. But Elon Musk is raising question marks because he has come out in support of freeing Tommy Robinson. Of course, he's been jailed for contempt of court for repeating false allegations against a Syrian refugee. There's a big movement behind him. He said that he left UKIP, in fact, Farage, when he's concerned about the way that UKIP was getting closer to people like Tommy Robinson, who would turn UKIP into the BNP, he said at the time. And that's why I think for this attempt by Farage to turn Reform UK into a challenger right-wing party and maybe overtake the Tory party ahead of the next election or at the election next time, he's going to make a choice here about how he deals with Tommy Robinson and particularly what someone who could be his biggest funder in Elon Musk.
But he's also, Musk is saying things like people like Jess Phillips should be thrown in jail, Parliament should be dissolved by the King, we should have a new general election, Keir Starmer is guilty, calling the rape gang scandal the biggest, worst mass crime against the British people ever. So on the one hand, there's a lot of bad noise. On the other hand, though, Elon Musk, say what you like about him, he's getting all of these big ticket issues talked about, but that of course brings a responsibility upon Nigel Farage's shoulders. There could be this tainted guilty by association.
Exactly. He's got to work out how he weighs that up. I mean, throughout his time in politics, Farage has sought to move away. He, by his own account, would say that by UKIP rising as a political force back in the late noughties and early 20-teens, he managed to take away the support from people like Nick Griffin. The BNP withered away until it effectively has died as a political force. UKIP stepped in, and then, of course, that became the Brexit Party and then Reform. So he's a person in his own mind who saw off and got rid of the BNP party. But the risk he's got here is being dragged back towards that debate, and certainly Elon Musk is not helping. So I think there's question marks here and how he deals with that Musk support. He wants Musk money, he wants Musk expertise, but there could be a reaction against Farage if he's seen to be doing too much for the bidding of this US billionaire.
OK, well, you'll be live from Leicester throughout the rest of the show. The auditorium behind you is empty now. Chris Hope will be filling up later on. I believe you'll have Lee Anderson for us later on in the show, and I look forward to that very, very much. Live from Leicester, that's Chris Hope, and we'll see you later in the show. Always a pleasure. And lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including the UK Health Security Agency have warned that the imminent cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death, of course, after their winter fuel allowance was axed. We'll speak to elderly people about what they're doing to keep warm amid their worries about those winter fuel cuts. That's coming soon. But first, here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 3:30, the top story. Well, Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs have been slammed by the Health Secretary as misjudged and misinformed. The tech billionaire accused Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Elon Musk for sharing factually inaccurate claims, they say, and warned against distracting from survivors' needs. The government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before any big changes happen. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says an independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but its final report won't arrive until 2028. The review, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people with everyday tasks like washing, eating and medication. The Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey, though, is among those who say the process needs to move much faster. The UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast, with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales this weekend. Temperatures plunged last night to minus 8.1 degrees in some places, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. The severe weather warnings will cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales from Saturday evening, and all of England remains under amber cold weather health alerts, with vulnerable groups at increased risk. Authorities are urging caution as the country prepares for heavy snow and freezing conditions. And flu cases in England's hospitals have quadrupled in just a month, with over 5,000 patients treated last week alone. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to breaking point amid that unexpected weekend cold snap. Health officials are urging vulnerable people to stay warm and to ensure that medications are on hand, with just 37% of those at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. Those are the latest headlines for now. Martin, back with you very shortly. First, though, we'll take a look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's the markets for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.2399 and €1.2051. The price of gold, £2,132.37 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is currently at 8,233 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas, likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells. But as I say, a very chilly night on offer. Most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland still, we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions. Some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. The M8 westbound in West Lothian, the entry slip road is partially blocked due to a jackknife lorry at junction 3A for Bathgate. M62 eastbound in West Yorkshire has a lane closed for an accident between junction 26 Chainbar and 27 Gildersham. Queues on the M56 westbound in Cheshire, there's a lane closed for emergency repairs between junction 11 Preston Brook and 12 for Runcorn. Long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire, 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs and an accident between junction 24 Potters Bar and 23 South Mims. We're seeing queuing traffic in the roadworks on the M5 northbound in Devon at junction 27 Tiverton, and the usual slow traffic on the M5 northbound to join the M6 at junction 8. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, it's getting very, very cold out there at the moment. So cold, in fact, the NHS has warned people not to go out early in the morning or late at night. How do you do that? As the country faces the big Arctic freeze, and they've also urged people to stock up on food and medicine. And the UK Health Security Agency warns that the cold snap could especially, of course, put the elderly at risk, particularly as 10 million British pensioners lost their winter fuel allowance. And on that point now, we can speak with GB News viewer Linda Finlow. Linda, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. We had you on the show before. You were wonderful then, and I'm hoping you're keeping safe and well now. But of course, everybody's concerned about the cold. We heard this week energy prices are going up once again. How are you feeling about this cold snap? It's the first cold snap of the winter. The Labour Party's own figures in 2017, Linda, said 4,000 pensioners could die this winter.
Yes. Well, last night, I live in Cheshire. Last night it was -4 here. It was extremely cold, and it was so cold, I had to keep getting up and checking that my radiators were on. I just couldn't believe it. And it really worries me about older people. I worry about the elderly. I worry about people who are homeless. It's going to be very difficult in this sort of weather.
And Linda, also we've seen this year the WASPy women's pension, disappointment after the Labour Party throwing their weight behind it. Sir Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Yvette Cooper, Ed Miliband, Rachel Reeves, they all supported that. And in opposition, they all supported keeping the winter fuel allowance. Politically, Linda, how are you feeling now as a pensioner?
I was talking to a WASPy woman this morning, actually. She's very, very unhappy about the outcome. And she's very cross that her MP, her Labour MP, and I can't remember where she said she came from now, had pledged that she would stand by the WASPy women, etc., and then this has happened. So I've come up with a great idea.
Yeah.
Because we're all in this together, allegedly. So if you will allow me to tell you what my idea is. And
Please do, yeah.
Yeah, OK. Well, when you go on the front bench and you're in government or opposition, your salary rises immeasurably. It's something like £50,000, £60,000. I think once you are on the front bench, government or opposition, because it must be for all parties, you should be disqualified from claiming heating, lighting, utilities, council tax, etc., because it's ludicrous that people on 150,000 are asking people on pensioners or the unemployed, some of whom are only on 8,500 a year, to fund their lifestyles. And I challenge MPs to see who will be the first from which party to do this.
Well, the answer probably is none of them. Last time we had you on, Linda, I said Linda for Prime Minister, and I'll say it again. I think you're absolutely full of wonderful common sense ideas, but on a serious point. You know, like today on my way into the studio, I drive past my local asylum seeker hotel. Their windows are wide open. I think it's so hot in there that the heating blasting out, the heat is going out the windows, all of that paid for by people like yourselves that have paid in your entire life. Linda, do you think there's just a criminal injustice here about where we've lost sense of our priorities in modern Britain?
Yes, definitely. There is a criminal injustice. It seems to be vanishing.
You get out of the frame, darling. Stop playing with the camera.
Oh, dear. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. The only thing I can suggest is that people come in via a small boat, claim asylum, and they'll have everything paid for. It's getting that ludicrous. I don't earn because I'm retired now, but my income is such that I can't apply for pension credit. I'm just over the limit. So I'm existing on my pension and what savings I've got. And I really do think Labour in particular are so out of touch with their voters that they really don't know what's going on.
You know, Linda, I spoke with David Pinless. He runs the pensionervote.com. Get involved in that, by the way. Go and get involved and give your voice across. He told me precisely that there was one of his users said that her best chance as an 86-year-old, I think her name is Evelyn, was to go to France and to come back on a dinghy, because then she'd get put in a hotel and get her heating paid for, get her food paid for, and she might get better treatment in Britain as an illegal immigrant than she would as a pensioner. I found it heartbreaking. That's where we're at. Linda Finlow, thank you, as ever, for joining us, even though you did go slightly wayward on the camera at one point. We got there at the end. Always an absolute pleasure. You stay warm, take care, darling.
Martin, let me know if any MP comes back to you and says, I agree with Linda, I'm going to denounce my expenses and utility bills. Let's see who's the first MP from which party to do that. Not backbench MPs, front bench only.
I suspect...
They're the ones that...
I suspect, Linda, you're going to be waiting a long time. I wouldn't leave the kettle on. I think it's going to be quite a long wait, my darling. But look, you stay warm, stay safe, and thanks for your company and your humour. As ever, wonderful stuff. GB News viewer there, Linda Finlow. Need more people like that in control of the company, in charge of the country, beg your pardon, then we might have a fighting chance. Now, moving on, if you're in search of some winter sun, and who can blame you with the weather like it is here in Blighty, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations this year.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east, with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Still chortling away at Linda there. Now, coming up, Meghan Markle has released yet another Netflix show, as now she rebrands herself, get ready for this word salad, as a hyper-stylised trad wife, aptly named with love, Meghan. Oh dear. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, British News Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's a time for the vegan community to get together, as well as an opportunity for non-vegans to try going plant-based.
Well, joining us now is from her delicious hummus, and we both love hummus, this is a great thing. This is the founder of Chickpea, Hannah McCollum. Hannah, lovely to meet you. And you've brought in some of your beautiful products in front of you here, so can you talk us through some of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a range of chilled hummus, and then latest to the range of a new ambient snack pot, which is a fridgeless hummus that doesn't require refrigeration. But I started Chickpea because of my love for hummus, but also sustainability and reducing food waste and encouraging people to be more plant-based without saying go vegan.
Does normal, say, traditional hummus have anything that's not vegan appropriate in it?
Not really.
No.
I think
it's always chickpeas, olive oil, maybe some other bits.
Yeah, lemon juice, aquafibre or water to help with the consistency, garlic, and rapeseed oil or olive oil.
And there's a bit of a misconception about veganism that I hear a lot, where people say, look, I'm not a vegan, I love my steaks, I'll just get out of there now. But there's a misconception that you don't get the protein, you don't get the fats, and you're kind of just eating processed salads and, fake meat and things. But that's not quite the case, especially with chickpeas, right?
Yeah, I think protein is really important, and actually a lot of people think I need a certain amount of fish every week or meat, but actually a lot of the fish and meat that you're eating are eating higher protein foods, so algae, seaweed, pulses, all these types of plant-based foods. For me, veganism is like you could have a delicious rye seeded bread with just loads of roasted vegetables, seeds, tahini sauce on top.
That sounds
and there's nothing beige in there at all.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:51 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, brace yourselves because the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has announced another new Netflix show. The new lifestyle show called With Love is set to premiere on the 15th of January, featuring 8 30-minute episodes. And let's take a little look at the treat. I'm now joined by GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker to discuss. She calls herself a trad wife. How is a multimillionaire married to a prince a trad wife? And do we really need to see a princess cooking cake?
Well, it's an idealistic, perhaps, interpretation of Meghan Markle's current life, living the luxury Montecito lifestyle. This is basically harking back to authentic, because that's going to be a real challenge. It's a very saturated market. We've got Gwyneth Paltrow selling bits and bobs, haven't we? Dodgy candles, etc. So that's a very similar market to what Meghan Markle appears to be striving for here. And, of course, she's still got those kind of royal connections going on in the background, so it'll be interesting to see how it rates.
It looks as saccharine and sickly as one of those homemade donuts she was baking there. Will there be a market for it? I mean, her last season got dropped.
On Spotify, yes. So she was dropped prematurely from Spotify. The mansion which she's filming in is actually rented. It costs about $5 million. The oven that you see in the background costs $15,000, and the pans are worth about 80. So this isn't like your everyday kitchen that most people in the world would be able to do. So the answer to will it appeal? Well, there are certain celebrity luxury lifestyle shows which do incredibly well on Netflix. Whether it's going to appeal to a British audience, I doubt it. American audience remains to be seen. However, if you look at the other Netflix series that Harry and Meghan have produced over the last couple of years, the Invictus Games one, of course, a very worthy cause, but unfortunately didn't rate, and others, it hasn't done very well. The only one which has done well is Harry and Meghan talking about their exit from the royal family, which, of course, is very controversial.
18 grand for an oven, the People's Princess, Cameron Walker, beautiful stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, plenty more coming up in the next hour, including we'll be hearing from the Red Wall Rottweiler, Mr. Lee Anderson, at the Reform Conference in Leicester. Come back with me, Martin Daubney, GB News, Britain's news channel. Now, here's your weather on a Chiswick.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas, likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells. But as I say, a very chilly night on offer. Most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions. Some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. Queues on the M8 westbound in West Lothian. The entry slip road is closed for a jackknife lorry at junction 3A Bathgate. Slow traffic on the M62 eastbound in West Yorkshire. There's a lane closed for an accident between junction 26 Chainbar heading towards junction 27 Gildersham. Queues on the M40 southbound in Warwickshire. It's all due to a vehicle fire at junction 16 Henley and Arden. Queues going back towards the M42 interchange. Long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire. 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs between junction 24 Potters Bar and 23 South Mims in the roadworks area. And we're seeing queuing traffic on the M5 northbound in Devon in the roadworks at junction 27 for Tiverton. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff.
And my name is Julie, and we won $25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a very happy Friday. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Paddington and all across the UK until 6 o'clock this evening. On today's show, yesterday the Labour Party caused global outrage by denying a full inquiry into the Oldham rape gang scandal. Today, I'll be joined by a wonderful single mum from Cornwall who is so outraged by this scandal, she is organising a Million Women March in London. Can't wait for that. And today, Nigel Farage and his Reform MPs head to Leicester for the insurgent party's sold-out East Midlands conference. Farage is set to blaze his guns into Kemi Badenoch's crazy reform conspiracies. And our political editor, Chris Hope, will be live from Leicester and he'll be joined by the Red Wall Rottweiler. Of course, that's Mr. Lee Anderson. And Donald Trump has blasted Britain's net zero policy, saying the UK is making a very big mistake. Open up the North Sea, get rid of windmills. Is he wrong? Or should the UK, just like America, drill, baby, drill? The worst mass crime against the British people ever. That's what Elon Musk is branding the grooming gang scandal, and the continued hushing of this, brushing it under the carpet by the political establishment, by police forces, by councillors, by social services and by the mainstream media. Charlie Peters this week did an astonishing expose of the Labour Party safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, refusing to grant a full national inquiry to Oldham Council. Well, there's been a huge backlash since then, with Maggie Oliver speaking out yesterday. This is a disgrace. The council whistleblower from Oldham himself joined me on the show yesterday, Brian Hobbins, saying they feel utterly betrayed. A whistleblower earlier spoke as well how he raised the flag about this 2 years ago, and it was he who was investigated by the police. I'm shortly going to speak to a single mum from Cornwall, so outraged and moved by this. She wants to start a new political movement and a mass march into London. I'm very, very much looking forward to that. What do you think about this furore? Have we betrayed an entire generation, ostensibly, of white working class girls? Do they deserve a full inquiry? Have they been betrayed by our entire establishment? Get in touch, GBNews.com/your say. But first is your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. Good afternoon to you at 4:02. Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs have been slammed as misjudged and misinformed by the Health Secretary. The billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Elon Musk for sharing factually inaccurate claims and warned against distracting from survivors. Well, let's take a listen to what Wes Streeting, Health Secretary, had to say.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
The government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before any big changes happen. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has again said an independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but its final report won't arrive until 2028. That review, being chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people, helping them with everyday tasks like washing, eating and medication. But Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey says the process needs to move much faster.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
Flu cases in England's hospitals have quadrupled in over a month, with more than 5,000 patients treated last week alone. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to what they've described as breaking point amid the expected weekend cold snap to come. Health officials are urging vulnerable patients to stay warm and ensure that medications are on hand, with just 37% of people at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. And the UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast, with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales this weekend. Temperatures plunged last night to minus 8.1 degrees, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. And the severe weather warnings will cover northern England and the Midlands, along with much of Wales from Saturday evening. And all of England remains under amber cold health alerts with vulnerable groups at risk. And in sport, Luke Littler is on the brink of history tonight, just one win away from becoming the youngest darts world champion ever. The 17-year-old will face Michael van Gerwen, chasing his 4th title in tonight's blockbuster final of the World Championship. Littler had dominated the tournament so far with record-breaking performances, but the pair's head-to-head is currently tied at 6-6, setting up for a thrilling showdown between darts' rising star and one of its greats. Those are the latest headlines. Another roundup in around half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
Thank you, Sam. Now to the grooming gang scandal that simply will not go away. And Kemi Badenoch has demanded that the government launches an immediate inquiry into child exploitation in Britain, despite not doing that while the Tories were in power for 14 years. And this comes as Sir Keir Starmer is attacked over his handling of the Oldham grooming gang scandal when he was also head of the Crown Prosecution Service, with Labour blocking an inquiry yesterday into his conduct at the time. Well, earlier on today, I spoke with GBNews national reporter Charlie Peters, who broke this story about this report, the inquiry being denied by Oldham, about the need for an independent, politically neutral inquiry.
Yeah, well, that's precisely what the survivors in the town are saying. They just don't believe in the council to do the job. And that's why the council made that request directly to the Home Office, with Jess Phillips, of course, as we revealed, saying no. She said she understood the strength of feeling, but she believed it was up to Oldham to do its job. Now, I understand that Oldham Council will now reach out to Telford to try and understand how they did their report and repeat that process. But many survivors concerned that even with this amount of attention, it just won't be right again. Now, that appalling situation you just referred to, Martin, Shabir Ahmed, probably one of the most shocking revelations of the national scandal. That was revealed in a report conducted that looked only at 2011 to 2014. When people say there's already been an Oldham report, 3 years just is not sufficient. There are so many more avenues to explore, so many other travesties that need to be exposed. And frankly, as survivors always tell me when I speak to them in Oldham, they say that there are just more people who need to be held accountable.
Charlie Peters there, been absolutely doing God's work this week. I've got some statements to read out here. Councillor Arooj Shah, she's the leader of Oldham Council, said this: "Since October, we've been working on setting up that independent inquiry, liaising with Oldham survivors and Telford Council, which conducted a similar inquiry. The independent inquiry will build on the findings of the Greater Manchester inquiry into non-recent safeguarding issues in Oldham. We're working closely with survivors and survivors' families to ensure that they don't just have a voice, but will have a central role in developing this inquiry." Well, a protest is now planned for February called the Million Women March, where the aim of bringing people together for a powerful, peaceful stand for the protection of children. I'm delighted to say I can now speak with the organiser of that protest, and that's Nat. Nat, welcome to the show. An absolute delight to have you on the programme. Now, Nat, I know that you're a passionate campaigner on issues around women and children's safeguarding. I know you've been very vocal on the situation down where you are, down in Cornwall, that part of the country, about the huge influx of asylum hotels and women's safety is something you have a huge concern about. Having said that, you know, you're a single mum from Cornwall, you're not a political beast, and yet you feel compelled now to stand up and do something. Tell me that. What was it that's made you finally stand up and be counted in this magnificent way?
Well, it really started off as, I mean, the toothpaste is never going to go back in the tube, is it, after this week especially? It was the horrific, detailed judges summing up of what those poor little girls went through, the actual details, you know, because the media have managed to skirt around these issues by manipulating language a lot. They say a little girl slept with 100 men, or... You know, even the term grooming gang, you know, I have my dog groomed. It's not an onomatopoeia. It doesn't describe the horrific torture and cruelty that goes on. But it's not just the grooming gangs. We had the beautiful little girl, Sarah, that was 10 years of missed opportunities before she was finally destroyed. Before that was Baby P, then it was Victoria Kalimbe. It's just, there's inquest after inquest, and inquiry after inquiry, nothing happens. And it can happen because we've seen it happen. When Extinction Rebellion were blocking the roads, the law was changed like that to stop public protest being an inconvenience. As soon as the Southport riots happened, immediately the law was changed so that social media posts were classed as inciting violence. They can do it, they just don't do it. And what we've seen is, we have seen 14 years of Tory failure, but we've also seen 14 years of Labour opposition. And most of these incidences are happening in Labour seats. And our own Prime Minister was the head of the CPS. You know, how many... And also we've seen in the last few months the Hugh Edwards thing, the amount of times that online abuse doesn't even receive a custodial sentence. Yeah. You know, these are not victimless crimes. And the worst thing about child abuse is it never, ever happens by accident. It's always premeditated. It's always calculated. You don't accidentally download child abuse images. You don't accidentally groom a child. These are premeditated, cruel crimes, and the sentences need to start reflecting that. There needs to be a deterrent. There is no deterrent at the moment. I would rather, and the long-term effect on our country is immeasurable. The drug problems, these are people that are self-medicating. These aren't people that have had good childhoods. And with the drugs comes the crime. And with the crime, you know, getting hold to today's children are tomorrow's future. And I think enough is enough. And there's, as with David Ames, when that tragedy happened, the first thing to blame was social media. Now they're blaming Elon Musk for, you know, vocalising the horrors of it. They have to stop deflecting. This is a hot potato that they all just keep passing to each other. Meanwhile, it continues. It's been going on since the 90s. And if they all just keep passing this hot potato between them and having inquiries and costing the taxpayer millions, we know the answer. Just deal with it. Just change the laws, strengthen the sentencing. After a spate of serious acid attacks in the UK, laws were changed almost overnight. And when do you hardly ever hear of an acid attack now? Strong sentencing matters, and there isn't any. Most people are just walking free at the moment with a suspended sentence. It's worth the risk. If you're a depraved pervert, it's worth the risk half the time. And if, you know, we've got thousands of predator hunters in the country, we shouldn't have that. We should have a centralised police force that are prioritising the welfare of children from sexual predators.
Nat, you know, I'm listening to you here, and I'm feeling such mixed emotions. On the one hand, it's astonishing to hear you speak like this. You're so wonderful and so eloquent, and you're so passionate, and you are ready made for this. I mean, you need to come forward and be something in a movement or something. You really, really do. And I'm also ashamed about what you're saying, because it's true. You know, of what we've allowed to happen in this country, and how everyone has just systemically buried their heads in the sand, and it's a deep, deep stain on our entire country. And I think that's now being picked up internationally. And I wanted to ask you about the march. We don't have an awful lot of time left. You've been compelled to stand up and do a march in London. I know you've never organised anything like this in your life. This is a huge challenge for you. You're an ordinary mum who's just standing up. And I think actually that's what makes it so special. You're not a political beast. You don't have a cause. You're doing this because you believe in the broken children and women of Britain. Tell us about the march, when it might be, and how can people get involved and support you?
Well, I'm starting to get a lot of help. Like you say, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm really calling upon people to help me. But it's on the 17th of February at 12 o'clock, and we're starting at Boadicea, her statue in Westminster. We think that's quite a profound place to start, because obviously her daughters were terribly violated, and she took on London, and her back faces London, where she eventually burnt it to the ground with 120,000 other Britons that were enraged about the violation of her virgin daughters. So we thought that that was a quite profound place to start. But people have started to talk about setting up their own ones on the same day around the country. So Cardiff, Scotland, Edinburgh, Northern Ireland. So we really want to get the movement going. And what's wonderful about it, and what's really touched me, is it's across the political spectrum. There's no left and right. Nobody's talking about any of that. Nobody's bringing their agenda on children, and it doesn't matter who the children are or who the matter, whatever their background, whatever their race, whatever their religion. We all have to come together, because that's something that can unite us.
I need to quickly ask you, how do people get involved? Where do they go? What do they do? Is there a Facebook page or anything?
Facebook page called the Million Women March now, or they could just Twitter search Million Women March. There's more and more things cropping up, so the people can come along to the London March or get involved at a local level. But we just want to make it unable to ignore anymore. We stand together.
Okay, we have to leave it there now. Wonderful stuff. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure I give that a boost on my social media to try and help you out. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips responded to the Council's request. Acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the Council Executive, Phillips apologised, for delays in responding, but maintained that local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. And she welcomed the Council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. I'm sorry for my outburst there. I'm only human. Let's move on. Donald Trump has launched a scathing attack on the Labour government, saying Britain is making a very, very big mistake by retreating from oil and gas, as he urged Sir Keir Starmer to open up the North Sea. Taking to Truth Social, the President-elect also said that the UK should get rid of its windmills. But is he wrong, or should the UK also drill, baby drill? Well, we can now speak with the senior meteorologist and the social commentator, Jim Dale. Jim, welcome to the show. Sorry, that had a bit of an emotional moment there. Let's try and change the tone here and get back. Is Donald Trump interfering in British energy policy, or does he have a point? I mean, a lot of people are noticing their bills going up. He's saying drill, baby, drill. He's promising cheap energy. That sounds like a great idea. Surely we should do the same.
Well, thanks for that, Martin. The last time I looked, he's President-elect of the United States, not the Prime Minister of the UK. So there's the sort of etiquette that goes around the world as far as politics is concerned, and countries and presidents and prime ministers, and that is you mind your own business. You let the country that has elected the prime minister, in our case, do his job, and President-elect, when he comes in, he can look after the United States, and I'm sure Keir Starmer will not be interfering in what the United States are doing. There seems to be something going on here, Martin. Every other day, you either get a Trump or a Elon Musk interference in terms of what's going on in the UK. It's almost as if somebody's whispered to these guys, you know, make some noise about this, about that. And this is the latest one. It's out of kilter anyway. This won't be happening as far as the UK is concerned. Yes, there's a dependency on oil still to a degree, not necessarily North Sea oil. Most of that goes abroad. But certainly, you know, we're in a transition zone, and what we're not doing is going backwards with what Trump's saying.
Jim, you're right to point out that we are still mostly reliant. It's about 70-odd% reliant actually on oil and gas, because, of course, when we need power the most, often there's no wind and there's no sun in the winter, and it means that we're importing liquefied gas from places like America or the Emirates, and instead we could be utilising our own oil and gas. What's the point? Packing it halfway around the world and adding extra carbon footprint to that. We're still burning oil and gas, but we're giving other people money. We should be energy sovereign and drilling our own stuff out.
Yeah, but Martin, that's almost looking back to the past, and we're going to we're going forward, not backwards. And a transition is exactly that. It's a bit of give and take. I know only 2 or 3 days ago, wind power in the UK was taking over 50% of our energy needs. In other words,
last week there was zero.
Well, that does happen from time to time. There's no doubt about that.
Your lights just went out.
But look,
I think your windmill turned off.
That's my other computer above my head here. Good one. Look, we're going in one direction, and that is wind power. It's renewables. It's clean. We don't want to start treading backwards and opening coal mines again and all of this sort of stuff.
Well, some do.
The decision has been made by the British electorate to elect this government. They've got a mandate. They will continue now for the next 4.5 years in terms of their. So whatever Trump says from the other side of the ocean will not make any difference to what we're doing. It's one direction, and me and you, instead of debating this, should be chasing storms, as I mentioned to you a year or so ago. That this storm coming on the weekend is definitely worth chasing, but that's a separate matter.
Jim Dale, always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Please have a very, very happy new year. Always a fun. Thanks, Jim Dale there. Thank you. Now, coming up later on today, Nigel Farage and his Reform MPs are heading to Leicester for the insurgent party's sold-out East Midlands conference, where Nigel Farage is set to blast Kemi Badenoch's crazy reform conspiracies. Plus, we'll be joined by Lee Anderson. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
But it turns out there's a growing number of grandparents who are now taking up the hobby.
And not all of them are male. 7 million gamers are aged over 50, 7 million of them. And we're going to introduce you to one this morning. Her name's Kath Bowie. She's 76 years of age, and Kath has become a worldwide star of the game Fortnite. Good to see you, Kath.
Hello, good morning to both of you.
Morning.
And tell me this, Kath, is Bowie your real name?
Bowie. Yeah, yes, it is my real name, yes.
And you do it a Bowie and not a Bowie?
It's a Bowie, yes, definitely Bowie, yes.
Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie.
But that's not what the Jim Bowie was called, or Jim Bowie was called in the Alamo. He was a Bowie.
No, but that's what I'm called, Kath Bowie.
Oh,
she's their own superstar.
You are your own superstar. You are indeed. Well, so we're led to believe, Kath, that there's nobody else like you, or very few people like you, but there is. There is lots of people your age, your stage, doing what you do.
Yes, there's not a lot that streams. Okay, Fortnite, but there's definitely plenty that plays. Any game, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Fortnite. It can be any game.
So Kath, how did you get started in all of this?
Oh, yeah, well, at 7 years ago, actually, I walked into my teenage grandson's bedroom and just saw him playing what I now know, of course, and what I play is Fortnite. And that was the very first week that Epic had released it. And it was just really love at first sight.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back, 4:25 with me, Martin Daubney, on this Friday afternoon here on GB News. Now, Nigel Farage will attend and host Reform UK's East Midlands Conference this evening in Leicester. And a poll published last month for the Sunday Times projected that Reform UK could now win a total of 72 seats in the event of a new general election. Let's cross live now to Leicester and join GB News' political editor Chris Hope, who's there at the scene, warming up the crowd there, no doubt, for a sold-out event. Now, Chris, I believe we have a breaking news line. A new mega poll has just come out showing that the Labour Party is hemorrhaging votes to Reform. On what issue?
Yeah, this poll, Martin, has caused a huge ruction here for the Reform UK team around Nigel Farage. A poll out just now from the I newspaper would give Nigel Farage's party 120 seats at the next election. It would see the number of Labour MPs drop to 278 in this seat-by-seat breakdown. They are saying here, a team around Farage telling me here, this is a big moment of this party. We're talking here from Leicester, where at around 8 p.m. we're expecting Nigel Farage to address 1,000 of his supporters. This is a sold-out event. Farage will use this event to aim his guns at the Tory party, particularly the leader, Kevin Badenoch. He said he's demanded an apology from Kevin Badenoch, the Tory leader, for questioning Reform UK's membership figures and peddling what he says are crazy conspiracy theories around about Reform UK. He's giving his full response. That could go anything down to legal action against the Tory party. And there's also reports here, and unconfirmed at the moment, of a defection tonight to Reform UK. Of course, he'll be answering questions from GB News and other broadcasters here, and he will be being asked, I think, about these comments from Elon Musk overnight, particularly Elon Musk's support for Tommy Robinson. We know Nigel Farage quit UKIP back in 2018 over what he said was an obsession by UKIP then with this figure, Tommy Robinson. He sees him, I think, as political kryptonite for the Reform UK party. So the question for Nigel Farage later will be, will you disavow Elon Musk's comments, and in fact, maybe Musk himself, despite the fact Musk is offering big money donations to Reform UK and also help with data on finding out where swing voters live.
Elon Musk is entitled to his opinions. They don't have to be Nigel Farage's opinions. We believe in free speech. But back to this poll. You're there in the East Midlands. Now, last weekend's poll for the Sunday Times showed that the East Midlands, the Red Wall, is precisely the kind of area where Reform are looking to make inroads. Nottinghamshire, of course, Ashfield MP Lee Anderson will be joining you, I think, in about half an hour's time on the show. And a lot of those seats in that Red Wall now could turn turquoise. And this fresh poll out today, Chris Hope, 120 seats, that's getting on for almost half as much again as the previous poll. So the momentum, if we believe the polls, seems to be with Farage's outfit.
And the scale of this poll is worth noting for listeners and viewers of GB News. It's by a firm called Stonehaven. They've polled 17,000 people since the election. The latest figures taken in December. Their polling uses something called an MRP, a multi-level regression with post-stratification model, which was seen as the most accurate way to forecast the result of a last general election. And according to this analysis, voters who remain loyal to Labour list health and the state of the NHS as a top priority, with 58% citing that in the top three issues, along with rising food prices and affordable housing. And that's probably why we're seeing those three areas being stressed by Keir Starmer in those missions announced just before Christmas. And indeed, we're expecting a big intervention from the Prime Minister in a speech on Monday, we think, around the issue of the NHS. That's where most of the money is being spent, of course, after that tax-raising budget. But big concerns here. One backbench Labour MP has told the I newspaper this afternoon that channel crossings were an issue in any seat, despite his constituency being away from the coast. Those illegal crossings is still a major problem for this government, and Reform UK, it looks like, is benefiting.
Well, Nigel Farage did say that he'd be parking his tanks on the lawn of the Labour Party. Of course, you're in the heart there of the East Midlands. That is red wall territory. It was Brexit land. It did go Boris in 2019. It went back to Labour this time. The volatility is high. Chris, in that last poll last weekend, Ed Miliband, Yvette Cooper, Angela Rayner, all looking to lose their seats to Reform. This new poll has budged that further, even further forward. The Labour Party need to take Reform seriously now, don't they? They can't keep discounting them as a bunch of people on the political margins. Nigel Farage keeps saying they're going to become the political opposition, and this new poll seems to show that the momentum is with them.
Yeah, those names, other names who would fall, according to this new poll from the I newspaper this afternoon. Angela Rayner, she'd lose her seat. Yvette Cooper, Ed Miliband, John Healey, Bridget Phillipson, Lisa Nandy. That's about a quarter of the cabinet. Big names there. A seat-by-seat analysis by Stonehaven has found that. A word of caution, Martin. I remember back to the mid-1980s when, of course, the SDP launched and became a Liberal Alliance. But the SDP, when it launched, I think it went towards 40%, 50% in the polls at some points, and that did not translate to big gains in the elections in the late 80s and early 90s. And it's worth remembering that although there's a lot of concern about the main parties, the failures the Tories made over 14 years, this government has not hardly set the heather alight in the past 6 months, and Reform is benefiting. But it's a long way to the next election. Lots can go wrong, and things have gone wrong for challenger parties in the past. I should just say to you, Martin, Lee Anderson has now arrived, so we'll be talking to him shortly after 5 p.m. on your show on GB News.
Lee Anderson is in the building, and around about 5 o'clock, you'll be with him, bringing him to us exclusively live here on GB News from that conference in Leicester. Chris Hope, absolute pleasure as ever. Speak to you again in about half an hour, my friend. Thank you. Now, if you didn't get everything on your Christmas list this year, don't fret, because how about 50 grand in tax-free moolah in the new year from us here at GB News? It really could be all yours in our biggest ever Great British Giveaway. And here's the details that you need to enter.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff.
And my name is Julie. And we won $25,000. Amazing, just the best feeling ever. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
There's lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including yesterday the FBI confirmed that the New Orleans suspect was radicalised by ISIS, with claims he was poisoned in a Texas mosque. Is rising Islamic terror a huge threat in the United States? And will Donald Trump declare war on this extremism when he's sworn in after January the 20th? But first, it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. We're just after 4:30. The top story this hour. Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs have been slammed by the Health Secretary as misjudged and misinformed. The tech billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillip deserves prison over her comments on exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Elon Musk for sharing what they described as factually inaccurate claims and warned against distracting from justice for survivors. The government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before big changes happen. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has again said an independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but its final report won't arrive until 2028. The review, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people. But the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, says the process needs to move much faster. The UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast this weekend with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.1 degrees overnight, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. The severe weather warnings will cover northern England, Midlands and much of Wales from tomorrow night. All of England also remains under amber cold weather health alerts, with vulnerable groups at increased risk. Authorities are urging caution as the country prepares for that heavy snow on the way and possible freezing conditions. And flu cases in England hospitals have quadrupled in a month, with over 5,000 patients treated just last week. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to breaking point amid that expected weekend cold snap. Health officials are urging vulnerable people to stay warm and make sure their medications are on hand, with just 37% of those at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more just last week. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup at 5 o'clock, and Martin will be straight back after this break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period, and as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells, but as I say, a very chilly night on offer, most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland still, we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions, some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday, and this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. Queues on the M8 westbound in West Lothian. The entry slip road is closed for a jackknife lorry at junction 3A Bathgate. It's also slow for the M77 southbound in Glasgow between junction 22 Plantation and 1 Dumbreck Road. Stop-start on the M62 eastbound in West Yorkshire. There's a lane closed for an accident between junction 26 Chain Bar and 27 Gildersham. The M40 southbound in Warwickshire is closed following a lorry fire. It's closed between junction 16 Henley and Arden and 15 for Warwick. Queues going back to the M42 interchange. It's also very slow on routes around Henley and Arden. And queues on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire between junction 25 Enfield and 23 South Mims. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:39 on this Friday afternoon with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, after an attacker killed 15 terrorists and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans by driving a car as a deadly weapon into New Year's revellers, the FBI has named the main suspect as US citizen Shamsuddin Jabbar, who previously served in the US Army. And they've also said that an Islamic State flag was in the vehicle and confirmed yesterday that he was inspired by ISIS. They call this a straight-up terrorist incident. Also, there are claims now emerging that he was poisoned in a Texas mosque. And the question is today, is rising Islamic terror a huge threat in the United States? And will Donald Trump declare war on this extremism when he's sworn in as president? We can now speak with GB News' US correspondent, Steve Edgington. Steve, welcome to the show. An astonishing press conference yesterday from the FBI saying absolute clarity. This was a terrorist incident, and Shamsuddin Jabbar, there is social media evidence he converted to ISIS, he converted to poisonous Islamism, social media posts saying this was a war between believers and non-believers. This guy is a straight-up radical Islamist, and the rumours coming out as well that he was poisoned in a mosque in Texas, in Houston, Texas. My question to you, I know you've been around America investigating the prevalence of this. Do you think there's a rising problem in the United States with radical Islamism?
I think radical Islam is spreading throughout the United States, and it's not just in the so-called blue states, the democratic states, but it's also in those red states like Texas. And it's interesting you talk about this mosque in Houston. I did a report earlier this year about radicalism, specifically Islamic radicalism across America. And I was told by experts that Islamists are pushing so-called dawah, this kind of conversion ideology, this radical form of Islam across America, including in red states like Texas and in California. And I was in Detroit in Michigan. And certainly I interviewed some incredibly radical people in mosques and sort of preachers and so on, and confronted them over their radical views. Just last year, we saw several people arrested coming over the US border with links to ISIS. We saw 8 people arrested in June in New York who had links to ISIS. Before that, in April, a man was arrested for having links with ISIS in Baltimore. He was a US citizen. And I think Trump is very concerned about this spread of radical Islam in the United States, both homegrown, as we saw in New Orleans, and this terrible terrorist attack on New Year's Day, and also from people coming over the border illegally. And that was what we saw last year, these 8 men who'd illegally entered the United States. They were from Tajikistan. And you know, they came in through the southern border and were found to have links with ISIS. So I think this is an issue of both border control, of extremists smuggling themselves into the United States, but also, as you say, radical hate preachers who are converting people into a horrific form of Islam. And unfortunately, some people are turning to terrorist groups like ISIS.
And indeed, one of the radical clerics in that precise mosque in Houston, Texas, Zubair Bouchiki, he was deported from the United States because he'd said that non-Muslims were worse than animals. He shared anti-Christian Saudi propaganda at those Houston mosques. Do you think that when Donald Trump gets into power, he's going to clamp down on this? Because this is a golden opportunity for him, this terrorist attack, exposing the state at large. And we saw before when there were bans on people coming in from certain countries. The public mood, you're there in Washington. What is the public mood since this terror attack? We've seen a huge awakening in Germany after the Magdeburg attacks. Are people now looking at this and thinking, we've got to do something about this?
I think whenever a terrorist attack happens, particularly in a country like the United States, the first emotion is anger and shock. I think people are incredibly angry that this has happened, and I think they want retribution. As we saw after those awful attacks in September 2001, America really woke up as a nation against radical Islam. And although that led to some perhaps foreign policy mistakes, certainly there was a huge public reaction against that. And I think we're seeing that, again, not quite on the same scale as 9/11, but certainly people are incredibly angry. And I think Trump does want to do things about this, particularly on the border issue. I think he wants to deport illegal immigrants who are a national security threat. And again, talking about those radical preachers, I think there is a very good case that he is going to deport those more radical people, those people who spread terrible hate against non-Muslims. And if you look at some of those Islamic doctrines they're supporting, as you say, it's absolutely abhorrent and disgusting language around people who don't support Islam and what should happen to those people. So certainly I think Trump is going to try and deport some of those people, control the border. And as you say, in his first term, he instigated what his critics called a Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. He didn't ban Muslims from coming to the United States, but he did put certain restrictions on Muslim majority countries where he felt that those people were a threat to the United States.
Now, Steve, could I very quickly ask you to tell us the name? You made an excellent documentary where you confronted an imam in a mosque in America. What's the name of that and where can people see it?
They can watch it on GB News' YouTube channel. They should look up GB News takes on radical imams in America's Muslim city. That's America's Muslim city. Look that up on YouTube and they can find their full documentary where I'm confronting these radical imams in their mosques about some of the words and comments that they've said online.
It's an excellent piece of work. Thank you for joining us on the show again today. Steve Eddington, always a pleasure. Thank you very much there for joining us from Washington, D.C. Now, moving on, if you're in search of some winter sun this year, and who can blame you, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Coming up, Meghan Markle has released another Netflix show as she rebrands herself as a hyper-stylised trad wife. Whatever that means. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
I'm joined with Ryan Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. One of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show, and I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
What was the business idea? Educate me.
A concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business plan like we all have to do. But I didn't make it to the interview, so I didn't get to talk about it. But no, it was a great experience, a very tough experience, but unforgettable.
So at a young age, how did that change your life at that age? Because you must have got recognised, starting to be recognised when you're going out and about town.
Yeah, I mean, it happened quite quickly because the adverts start rolling out on BBC One and then the shows go on air. It's once a week on a Wednesday. You're getting about 7 million people tuning in every week.
Yep.
And yeah, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then suddenly you get invitations to things. You're going to premieres and it was a lot. It was a lot at a young age. And I obviously had no training for any of that. But I just embraced it and I've had fun with it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 10 to 5 on Friday afternoon with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has announced another new Netflix show. The new lifestyle show called With Love is set to premiere on the 15th of January, featuring 8 30-minute episodes. Let's take a wee look at what... Are you crying? Just what I need in my life. The princess making cake for her mates on an 18-grand cooker. Well, let's speak now with the royal commentator, Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, that's what we need, isn't it? More princesses making sickly cake for their millionaire wives. I can't wait. What about you?
Well, I think there's going to be a problem.
And just what you need in life. Like, who's got the time to make flour-contained ice cubes? No doubt there'll be more on her jam. Love Meghan. Does that float your boat? Would you like to sink your teeth into it? Or would you like to see it sink like the Titanic? Now, moving on, in the next hour, we'll be soon hearing from the Red Bull Rottweiler Lee Anderson, live from the Reform Party conference in Leicester. And an astonishing new poll has just come out. I've got it here. And the seats of Britain are getting painted turquoise. This will be music to the ears of the Reform Party. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. But first, it's time for your weather, and it's Honor Krizik.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells. But as I say, a very chilly night on offer. Most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coast of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions. Some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm John Vincent. Queues on the M62 eastbound in West Yorkshire. There's a lane closed for an accident between junction 26 Chainbar and 27 Gildersham. The M40 southbound in Warwickshire has been closed between Henley and Arden at junction 16 and the Warwick bypass at junction 15 as a result of a lorry fire. Queues going back towards the M42 interchange and routes around Henley and Arden and Hatton are also very congested. It's slow on the M1 southbound in Bedfordshire. It's all due to an obstruction in the road between junction 11 Dunstable South and 10 the Luton Airport Spur Road, and congestion on the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire between junction 25 Enfield and 23 for South Mims due to an accident and emergency barrier repairs. And that's the latest traffic and travel news.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. on Friday. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, bringing you all the very latest until 6 o'clock. Today, Nigel Farage and his Reform MPs head to Leicester for the insurgent party's sold-out East Midlands conference off the back of a new poll that's broken in this past hour, which puts them on 120 seats if a general election were held today. Our political editor Chris Hope will be live from Leicester with the Red Wall Rottweiler Lee Anderson. That's very soon. And yesterday, Labour caused global outrage by denying a full inquiry into the Oldham rape gang scandal. The man pushing for accountability over all of this was Charlie Peters, and he will join us shortly for another update. And teenage dart sensation Luke Littler is on the verge of history tonight as he competes in the World Darts Championship final. And darts legend Bobby George will tell us if Luke the Nuke can put it off this year. And that's all coming in your next hour right after your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. 5 o'clock exactly, the top story tonight. Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs here in the UK have been slammed as misjudged and misinformed by the Health Secretary. The billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on exploitation of children in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Mr Musk for sharing what they've described as factually inaccurate claims and warned against distracting from survivors' needs. The government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before any big changes take place. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says an independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but final report won't arrive until 2028. The review, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people. But the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, is among those that says the process needs to move much faster. Flu cases in England's hospitals have quadrupled in a month, with over 5,000 patients treated just last week alone. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to breaking point amid an expected weekend cold snap. Health officials are urging vulnerable people to stay warm and ensure that medications are on hand, with just 37% of those at risk vaccinated so far. Well, A&E department wait times are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. The UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast this weekend, with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.1 degrees overnight, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. The severe weather warnings will cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales from tomorrow evening, and all of England remains under amber cold weather health alerts, with vulnerable groups increased risk. And in sport, Luke Littler is on the brink of history tonight, just one win away from becoming the youngest darts world champion ever. The 17-year-old will face Michael van Gerwen, chasing his fourth title in Friday's blockbuster final of the World Darts Championship. Littler has dominated the tournament so far with record-breaking performances, and tonight's thrilling showdown is between darts' rising star and one of its greats. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, straight over to Martin.
Thank you, Sam. Now, a new mega poll out just in this past hour shows that Sir Keir Starmer is losing voters to Nigel Farage's reform on migration. And the same poll from the newspaper shows Nigel Farage's party winning 120 seats at the next general election, while Labour would see the number of their MPs drop to 278. And that's a major constituency-by-constituency breakdown, is revealed. And this all comes, of course, as Reform hosts their East Midlands conference in Leicester today. And let's go right there now, and I'm joined by Chris Hope, our political editor, who is with Lee Anderson, the chief whip of the Reform Party, and of course the MP for Ashfield. Chris, this poll with music to the ears of those at Reform. It shows the Labour Party losing 133 seats, and 115 of them going straight to Reform. It's with music to their ears, won't it, today?
That's right, Martin, and welcome back to Leicester here. We're waiting for this big Farage rally starting around 7 p.m. Farage himself is on around 8:10, so tune into GB News for that. There's no question that Reform UK is the party which has apparent momentum, at least in the polls, if not in the actual ballot box yet. Judging by this poll in the Iron newspaper today, 17,000 people polled since the election, the last polling being in December, giving them 120 seats at the next election, an increase of 50% on the last forecast of around 70 seats. One of the people behind this big charge for support for Reform UK is Lee Anderson, and he's the party's chief whip. Lee Anderson, welcome to GB News. This poll puts you on 120 MPs. Have you got Labour on the ropes? Is this figure show the election is in the bag, or at least a big number of MPs for you?
Nothing's in the bag, Chopper, but what it does show is more, as we pass each week, the momentum is gathering. We're the party with the momentum at the moment. And I remember being sat at the conference in Birmingham just a few months ago, Chop. I will remind you of this when you said it was a political sugar rush. I'm sorry you were talking nonsense then, because this is not a political sugar rush. This is the people of our great country. They're fed up to the back teeth of the main two parties, and they are joining this party at a phenomenal rate.
It felt like a sugar rush, and maybe it still might be one, by the way, because you haven't yet been tested at the ballot box. We wait till the May local elections. Next year, Wales and Scotland are big for your party. Will the support of Elon Musk, the world's richest man, be a help or a hindrance?
Well, if you've got the world's most successful businessman, he's got the biggest social media platform, I think, in the world. If he's putting out messages of support for Reform UK, he's getting that message across. It can only help, I think, Chopper. Let's be honest. He's rattling some cages. He's triggering all the right people, and I'd sooner have him with us than against us.
But But do you really? He wants to free Tommy Robinson. Do you want to free Tommy Robinson?
Well, that's up to Elon. He's got his own. What's
opinion. Your view on him? Would he be in the
on Tommy Robinson? Well, he pleaded guilty, didn't he? So if he pleaded guilty, he's got to take his sentence.
Would you welcome him back into Reform UK?
Tommy Robinson? No, I won't welcome him into Reform UK. I think we made our position quite clear on that. Chopper is we need to win the next election to save this great country of ours, and we can't have any distractions at all. I think Tommy Robinson would be a distraction. For the sake of this country, if anybody watching this tonight, we need to win the next election, no distractions, and save our beautiful country.
Do you worry, though, that Elon Musk's remark could put off voters here being told what to do by a South African-born American? It might annoy the people you're trying to appeal to.
No, not at all. I don't. I mean, look at Elon Musk, like I said, the most successful businessman ever on this planet. He's got 200 million followers. The fact that he's tweeting out, words of support and encouragement for Reform UK, when he got 5 MPs at the moment, Chopper, this is brilliant. The other parties would give their right arm for Elon Musk to be tweeting out support.
You're the 8th biggest party by grouping in Parliament. You've got a long way to go to get anywhere near where the Tories are in second place, haven't you? I mean, listen, is it all especially froth? I won't say the word sugar rush, you'll tell me off again. But
well, I will tell you off as well, Chopper. You need to do you need to get your mathematics correctly, because we've got 4.1 million votes at the last election. That's 500,000 more votes than the Lib Dems. Yeah, they've got 72 seats. So really,
5 MPs against 72 seats.
With the third party on the popular vote. It's as simple as that. Simple maths, Chopper.
This issue of the rape gangs in Oldham and other northern towns is dominating coverage at GB News and elsewhere, searching on social media and in some newspapers. Does Reform UK back a national public inquiry?
I think anybody, Chopper, with an ounce of decency within their body would back a national public inquiry into this. It's absolutely shocking. And mark my words, this goes much deeper than anybody's reporting at the moment. I noticed on the somebody was telling me earlier, I don't know if to believe him or not, but he said the BBC News was on last night and they never even mentioned the grooming scandal. It is, when you think about what happened to these young girls in towns in the Midlands and in the North, it's absolutely vile, it's disgusting, and some of these local authorities, the police, the social workers, the council should hang their head in shame. And I agree with what my colleague says, Rupert Lowe, these people should be locked up straight away.
Why do you think there's a nervousness about doing that? Why did the Tory party not do it in 2022 when they were asked by Oldham Council?
Yeah.
Why is this government, the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips said no? Why are the main parties not embracing it?
It's common sense. We know why it is. They're frightened to death for upsetting a certain demographic, and we know what that demographic is, because it's going to cost them votes. It's as simple as that, Chopper.
And the victims are being forgotten in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we keep forgetting about these young girls, 12, 13, 14-year-old, have been abused, they've been tortured, they've been... the stuff they've been through, Chopper, is just sick. It doesn't bear thinking about. It upsets me just thinking about. These girls, who are young women now, need justice. And the fact that we've got a parliament that's denying them justice makes me feel sick to the pit of my stomach.
While I'm talking to you, we've got some breaking news at GB News. Marco Longhi is joining Reform UK. Is that right?
Who's told you that?
It's breaking now on the GB News website.
Who's told you that, Daubney? I think there's a few of them again, hasn't it?
No, it's breaking now. Is that correct? Yes or no?
I spoke to Marco this week, actually.
You're the chief whip, you're in charge of it.
Listen, I'm not in charge of recruitment and selection. You've been a little bit naughty again, Chopper. This is a tease, isn't it?
I'm being told it here.
Well, if Marco Longhi joins our party tonight, I'll be absolutely delighted, because he's one of the more sensible ex-Conservative MPs, a proper MP, a great constituency MP, and he's got a proper backbone as well.
What's your message to the two main parties? I mean, are you coming for them?
No message.
Essentially, what is Reform
There's no
UK's message?
We're not interested in the main two parties at all. Look at our membership. It's nearly 170,000 at the moment. We've got councillors joining us every day. We've got over 1,000 council candidates ready to go at the next election. We're the fastest growing political movement in the UK. We're not interested in what... Look, just go online, look at the spats that's happening at the moment. We've got a major spat with Nigel and Kemi Badenoch. I don't know why she started that fight at all. It's not the hill to die on. She can't beat Nigel.
Those membership numbers are real, are they? They're real people?
Absolutely. I tell you what, mate, we're flying. I've checked today, I think it was 165,000 before they come out. It's not slowing down, Chopper. This is... And most of the people that I've been talking to tonight on the door here, they've never been in a political party before. They're joining for the first time. They're fed up. They've had enough.
Well, Lee Anderson, thank you for joining us today in Leicester. We'll be here all might watching the speeches. Maybe you might even see Marco Longhi on stage. We'll wait and see. Martin, back to you in the studio.
Can you just say to Lee Anderson, it's an outrageous slur to say that I've been drinking during my show. I always wait until 1 minute until after my show. Look, cracking news there. And that big defection, Marco Longhi, it's all happening there in Leicester. And, of course, you'll be back through us throughout the rest of the afternoon, including an exclusive with Nigel Farage. Well, actually, no, an interview with Nigel Farage later on. Thank you very much, Lee Anderson and Chris Hope there, live from Leicester. Now then, back to the grooming gang scandal. And Kemi Badenoch has demanded that the government launches an immediate inquiry into child exploitation in Britain, despite not having done that as 14 years in power. This also comes as Sir Keir Starmer is attacked over his handling of the Oldham grooming gang scandal when he was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service. And, of course, the Labour Party blocked an inquiry into his conduct at the time. And we can now speak with our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's been breaking these astonishing exclusives. And you've also got some new news for us, haven't you, Charlie, regarding a Rotherham grooming gang survivor. We've got a breaking line. What is it, Charlie?
That's right, Martin. Tonight, GB News can reveal that a grooming gang survivor in Rotherham is being forced to wait almost 2 years for her trial to start. The survivor, who is remaining anonymous, has told me that a man was charged in the summer of last year, but she has to wait until February 2026 for a trial into rape charges for a girl under 16, 2 counts. She has to wait until 2026 for that trial to start. Now, I know this survivor well. I've known her for a number of years on her fight for justice. And she's told me this evening that it's been a terrible kick in the teeth to know that she's waited decades for justice. She was first abused by gangs when she was aged just 11 in the South Yorkshire town. But it wasn't until the National Crime Agency launched an investigation in 2015 that she finally saw some glimmer of hope. But it's taken again another 10 years for one of her abusers to be charged, that alleged rapist facing a trial in 2026. And this survivor, again, totally anonymous, very much in the shadows at the moment, telling GB News that waiting this further period, having that extra 2-year delay after being ignored for decades is just an appalling experience. It means that she says she'll have to wait almost 30 years from the first time she was abused for this alleged rapist to be sitting in a courtroom and facing cross-examination from barristers. She also said that when she was told the news that a trial had been set for February 2026, her mental health took an appalling turn for the worst. And one comparison she made is that the Crown Court, where we expect this trial to take place, which is Sheffield, has processed many trials for people who were involved in rioting over the summer. She told me that many people have been processed, placed behind custody and put on trials very quickly. So why, oh why, was her case being delayed almost 2 years after decades of ignorance, after so many appalling instances of state failure? Why is she forced to wait? Why they get trials straight away?
Charlie Peters, is an absolute outrage. As you said, people were banged up within weeks for Facebook posts, for throwing rocks at those protests in the same towns where people have been denied justice for decades, now have to wait 2 years to get justice, and that's to get to trial.
Yes.
It will make people think, once again, Charlie Peters, we have two-tiered justice, we have a two-tiered system, and it seems that those who rise up and protest against the system, they're dealt with just like that. And those who are abandoned by the system, they don't get justice. This will make people more and more suspicious, Charlie Peters, that we have two-tiered justice in this country.
Martin, when the state wants to act and achieve things, it absolutely can. But as it stands, as of March 2024, there's a backlog of over 10,000 sexual offence cases and almost 3,000 rape cases awaiting trial. That's an almost 196% rise since 2019, a significant surge in the number of cases awaiting trial. I'm still waiting for the Ministry of Justice to get back to me on this particular case with an explanation. But as I understand it, the National Crime Agency, their sub-operation that looked into this investigation went extremely smoothly, has led to the CPS bringing these charges, but there's nothing they can do about getting this to court. And I have to say, Martin, many grooming gang survivors that I speak to across the country, all the way from Bristol up to Glasgow, they say the same thing. Why are we treated less than other people complaining about crimes? Why do we have to wait so long?
Charlie Peters, the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, has, in opposition, criticised the Conservatives endlessly for playing politics over sexual violence. In Cologne, where we saw the mass rapes on New Year's Eve in 2015, criticising the Conservatives for not implementing the recommendations of child sexual exploitation reports. There was an opportunity yesterday to do something about that, to show that the government truly was safeguarding individuals, to put the rumours to one side about the system being politicised. That wasn't taken. And now here we are again. Somebody denied justice for 2 years, the precise thing in opposition that they were outraged about. Charlie Peters, people will be looking at this and thinking, how much more can people take?
Yes, Martin. Yeah, I hear it all the time, unfortunately, and that is a frustration that's now growing. But as we've been saying over the last couple of days, something has changed on this story now. The lid has well and truly been blown off by the intervention of Elon Musk, which has sparked not just a national conversation, but an international outrage, all sparked by GB News exclusively revealing that the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, had denied a request from Oldham Council to hold a government-led inquiry in the town. Now, the survivors there, they're desperate for that. And as you say, Martin, this is a difficult period for the government as they try and navigate all of this pressure, in particular as they try to explain why they've taken that decision not to approve Oldham's request for a independent inquiry. And also, this is the question that I still haven't had answered by Labour, and I think more pressure needs to be put on this. Why did it take Jess Phillips almost 4 months to respond to that letter? I've seen 2 separate letters that were sent by the Oldham executive to Jess Phillips. She only replied at the end of October. It shouldn't take that long, many survivors have said, in order to get back to people urgently requesting government support in dealing with historic, potentially ongoing, grooming gang abuse.
Okay, Charlie Peters, we have to leave it there. Another astonishing exclusive from you. You've been doing amazing work. It's infuriating, but it just has to be, the pressure has to be kept up. Thank you so much, Charlie Peters, for joining us once again. Let's continue this conversation now with the social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Hassan. Rakib, welcome to the show. You must have overheard that there. Just an incredible situation. It's just a huge double whammy to anybody who feels they've been abandoned by this system. A full inquiry denied yesterday, and now fresh news that a survivor in Rotherham having to wait 2 full years to face trial in a town where people were put in jail within weeks after the Southport protests.
Well, many of the victims of these predatory grooming gangs have been treated terribly by the authorities. And I think that what this really exposes is the dark thinking which exists within the multicultural British state, where there's this great emphasis on diversity as our strength beliefs. There's that concept of white privilege. And I think when you fall into those forms of thinking, there's almost a lack of sympathy here for many of the vulnerable working class girls who suffered in such a horrible way. Their misery and suffering is almost treated as some kind of inconvenience. So we need a radical overhaul, and I think we need to change the kind of thinking which exists in institutions where their bread and butter, their core responsibility is protecting the most vulnerable members in society.
Rakib, I think you've hit a really important point there. In our desire to be inclusive and to protect minorities, have we forgotten about the majority, the silent majority, the abandoned majority? These white working class girls, they've been completely abandoned by the system. They were silenced. A lot of them haven't even made it, by the way. They've taken their own lives in exasperation of how destroyed and hollowed out their lives have become. And when you hear that a report is denied, when you hear that people who've blown the whistle found themselves being investigated for being racist, for being Islamophobic, it makes you wonder if this entire situation puts a magnifying glass over the fact we've completely lost our way in terms of our priorities nationally.
No, absolutely. And I think when you have people within the public sector fall into this kind of oppressive majority versus oppressed minority paradigm, this is the end result, actually, where you have multiple cases of predatory grooming gangs, quite often predominantly of Pakistani heritage, guilty of the rape, torture, exploitation of vulnerable white working class girls. And I think something that gets missed a lot, Martin, is the fact that when you look at the victims, disproportionately disabled or in care, in precarious care settings. So I think that we have to have a very, I mean, you talk about national conversation, but I think more people actually want to see action. That's the truth of it. And I think not only talking about perpetrators who are still living free in society, heads have to roll, whether it's police forces, local councils. I think many social workers here didn't do a particularly good job at all with safeguarding teams, even teachers turning a blind eye. I think there's many people who, in my view, fell desperately short when it came to their duty of care.
And Dr. Rakib Hassan, in a nutshell there, you make the case so eloquently for a full, transparent, national, apolitical inquiry into this ongoing scandal. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Fantastically put, as ever. That's Dr. Rakib Hassan. Thank you. Now, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, responded to the Oldham Council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the council executive, Phillips apologised for delays in responding but maintained the local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. Now, she welcomed the council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors, and councillor Arooj Shah, the leader of Oldham Council, said this. Since October, we have been working on setting up that independent inquiry, liaising with Oldham survivors and Telford Council, which conducted a similar inquiry. The independent inquiry will build on the findings of the Greater Manchester inquiry into non-recent safeguarding issues in Oldham. And we're working closely with survivors and survivors' families to ensure they don't just have a voice, but will have a central role in developing this inquiry. Well, coming up, the UK Health Security Agency has warned that the imminent cold snap could put the elderly at risk of death, especially, of course, since the winter fuel allowance was axed. We'll speak to the elderly about what they're doing to keep warm amid winter fuel cuts with me, Martin Daubney, next on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The BBC has been branded jaw-achingly stupid, not by me, by the way, over its decision to cast black and ethnic minority actors in the historical drama of Wolf Hall. Now, is this a forward-thinking idea or nonsense? Are we rewriting history? Henry, I mean, the Tudors were real-life people. They were pretty much white.
Well, some of these shows depart so much from historical context anyway that maybe it doesn't make any difference. But I think just generally we've got a problem in this country with portraying history in its correct sense. You can't change history. And I think it's about the motivation. If the motivation is to sort of to some sort of, you know, to make a political point, then I think it's wrong.
What I find kind of tedious about people finding this instant jaw-droppingly stupid, Jesus was portrayed by somebody who's half Slovak and half Irish. Moses was portrayed in the Exodus by an Englishman. So, you know, same with Anne Boleyn, you know, was portrayed by Natalie Portman, who is Jewish. So if this is the one thing that's getting people angry, then there's something deeper within that rage, because I think Hollywood's been doing that, where people...
When you say something deeper, do you think there is a hidden racism and people are complaining about this?
Well, I think for some, maybe yes. I can't speak for everybody because you know, this news dropped today. I don't know why they are thinking that it's egregious, but there absolutely must be some underlying racism if this is the only one that you're upset about.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Welcome back, 5:27 on Friday afternoon with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, do you fancy a stash of cash? Well, if you didn't get everything on your Christmas list this year, how about £50,000 in tax-free cash in the new year, courtesy of us here at GB News? It really could be yours in our biggest ever Great British Giveaway, and here's the details that you need to enter.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? £50,000 is an amazing amount of money, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
There's lots more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, and yesterday the FBI confirmed the New Orleans suspect was radicalised by ISIS, with claims he was poisoned in a Texas mosque. Is rising Islamic terror a huge threat in the USA? And will Trump ever declare a war on extremism? But before that, in case you hadn't noticed, it's getting blooming cold outside. So cold, in fact, that the NHS has warned people not to go out early in the morning or late at night. How do you do that as the country faces the big Arctic freeze? And they've also urged people to stock up on food and medicine. And the UK Health Security Agency warns that the cold snap could put the elderly at particular risk of death. Well, we can now speak with GB News viewer Sue Ashcombe-Hurt. Sue, welcome to the show. So this is the first major cold snap since the winter fuel allowance was axed. A lot of pensioners feeling very, very anxious about what it means for them. How do you feel about all of this?
Well, I'm anxious as well. You know, let me put it, I don't consider myself a poor pensioner, but I obviously worry about the cost of energy. And at the moment, my house is below 12 degrees and it's going to stay there. It annoys me that these policies are made by people who have no idea what they're on about. And they have no, you know, they're so incompetent that they don't have the sense to actually consult experts in the field for old people and the keeping warm, etc. No getting in touch with Age UK or any of those charities. They just come off the top of the head with something, and they don't even consult their own MPs most of the time. They have not a clue.
So, you know, in opposition, the Labour Party did a report into this in 2017, and they concluded that losing the winter, 4,000 deaths, you know about. So, of course, you're all over this topic, as you would be. It affects you directly. How does it make you feel to learn that if the government then, in opposition, felt 4,000 might die, now they're in power, well, presumably, is that a price they think is worth paying? How does that make you feel?
Well, they obviously do. I mean, they think that us pensioners all vote Conservative. and that's okay for them to kill us off or annoy us. But they forget that a lot of our families may vote Labour, and none of them are going to vote for him again, are they?
Well, it does make you wonder if this has caused something of a political schism, and we've seen that also with the WASPy women. And again, another group that the Labour Party supported in opposition, Sir Keir Starmer did, Angela Rayner did, Ed Miliband, Yvette Cooper, Rachel Reeves, they all supported them, and they all supported keeping the winter fuel payment. Do you feel sometimes that politicians just say anything to get elected?
Well, to be fair, Martin, I go on your say quite a bit, and during the election, I was telling people on there time and time and time again, don't believe a word they say to get into power. They'll tell you anything you want to hear, and then they'll change it all around. 4,000 was a figure they did when they were in opposition. We've had a lot of immigrants in since then. That means older people are finding it difficult to actually get a hospital or doctor's appointment as well. They seem to think that every single pensioner is on 11,000. I asked the other night if one of the presenters on GBNews could live on 11,000, seeing as he jets all over the world every 2 weeks. And I also think that they don't remember that the oldest pensioners, that's those of us who were women if they were born before 1953 and men who were born before 1951, aren't on 11,000. My pension off the state is £8,814 because I'm older. And it seems to me that the older you are, the colder you're going to get because your pension's so small.
So can I just put the point to you that the Labour Party maintain that the triple lock has been withheld, it's been maintained, and so your pension will go up. So you are getting more money is what they would say.
Yeah, but then you pay tax on it, you know, because I've got a small pension from my company, but that's smaller than the pension I get off the state. So together, they take me just over the limit. So any little bit extra I get, it gets taken off me in tax. Okay. You know, you can't win. Pensioners can't win.
OK, we have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us, Sue Ashcombe-Hurt. And please stay safe, stay warm and stay tuned into GB News. Thanks, darling. You take care. Thank you. Early today, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, told the BBC that this is definitely a weekend to turn the heating on and that people should wrap up warm and use their heating as temperatures drop. This came after he was quizzed about pensioners losing access to that winter fuel payment. Now, loads more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, including yesterday, the FBI confirmed the New Orleans suspect was radicalised by ISIS, with claims he was poisoned in a Texas mosque. Is rising Islamic terror a huge threat in the USA, and will Donald Trump declare war on that? But first, here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Good evening. Fast approaching 5:35, and the top story tonight, Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs here in the UK have been slammed by the Health Secretary as misjudged and misinformed. The tech billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said that Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on child exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Musk for sharing factually inaccurate claims, they said, and warned against dismissing and diminishing survivors' needs. Former Conservative MP for Dudley North, Marco Longhi, has announced he is joining Reform UK. He will join Nigel Farage this evening at a sold-out regional conference in Leicester, where he'll respond to Kemi Badenoch's claims about the Reform Party. In a statement, Longhi said that his decision is about restoring national identity and prioritising people's needs over what he described as political correctness and elitism. He also criticised the Conservative Party's shift leftwards and said its failure to represent the people means he will now pledge to fight for the change that he believes is necessary. Flu cases in England's hospitals have quadrupled in a month, with over 5,000 patients treated just last week. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to what they've described as breaking point. Health officials are also urging vulnerable people to stay warm and make sure their medications are on hand, with just 37% of people deemed at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. And the UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales this weekend. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.1 degrees overnight, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. The severe weather warnings will cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales from Saturday evening. And all of England still remains under amber cold weather health alerts, with vulnerable groups at increased risk. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you at the top of the hour. First, though, let's take a quick look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And let's take one last look at the markets for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.2399 and €1.2051. The price of gold, £2,132.37. That's per ounce. And the FTSE 100 has closed the day today at 8,233 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells. But as I say, a very chilly night on offer. Most areas seeing below zero temperatures. To start on Saturday, once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland still, we're still likely to see these showers, falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again, feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again, we see fairly similar conditions. Some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long queues continue in Warwickshire for the M40. The motorway remains shut southbound from junctions 16 to 15, the Henley and Arden turn-off down to the Warwick bypass. A lorry has caught fire. There are long queues back to the M42 and on surrounding routes, particularly through Hatton and Henley and Arden as you divert. In Lincolnshire, near to Grantham, the A1 is shut southbound from the A52 down to Little Ponton for investigation work following a serious accident. On the Hertfordshire stretch of the M25, 2 out of the 3 lanes are closed anti-clockwise. Emergency barrier repairs continue just before the A1M. Long queues back towards the A10. What's not helping is, of course, an accident happened just after junction 24 earlier on. And in Essex, south of Chelmsford, the A130 remains shut near Rettington Turnpike after a horse box overturned. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 5:40. I'm Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now, after a terrorist killed at 15 and hospitalised 35 others in New Orleans by driving a car into New Year's revellers, the FBI has named the suspect as a US citizen, Shamsha Din Jabbar, who previously served in the US Army. And they then confirmed that an ISIS flag was found on the vehicle and that he was inspired by ISIS, with further claims he was poisoned in a Texas mosque. And the question is this: is rising Islamic terror a huge threat in the USA, and will Donald Trump declare war on this extremism? Well, we can now speak with GB News US correspondent Steve Edgington. Steve, welcome back. So an incredible situation where this is the FBI's own admission yesterday, inspired by ISIS, had the flag of ISIS. His social media post was saying that he was incited to rise up, and the further evidence of that mosque in Houston. Indeed, one of the hate preachers in there, a former cleric, Zubir Bouchkini, was deported from the US by saying that non-Muslims were worse than animals. Now, Steve Edgington, I know you've been on a journey across the US looking for evidence of rising radicalisation within the country. Tell us what you found.
That's right. And I think this terrorist attack in New Orleans was just one of many homegrown terrorists that come out of the United States, but also the Western world, where you have people born in these countries, usually to immigrant parents, and they become radicalized in Islamism. And in this case, this man drove a truck into a crowd of people on New Year's Day and had an AR-15 rifle. He started shooting into the crowd, and he even planted bombs around patrol cars, fortunately that didn't go off, in this kind of sophisticated attack inspired by ISIS. And as you say, I've been around America trying to find evidence of Islamic extremism. In Detroit, there is actually a Muslim majority city in America, which may surprise some viewers. We don't have similar populations here in the States of Muslims as we do in Britain. But there is one city, Hamtramck, it's called, where there is a Muslim majority. And they actually voted for a Muslim mayor and a Muslim council, all-Muslim council. And that city instigated various Islamic sort of doctrines. For example, they allowing for animal sacrifice in people's backyards. They've banned the LGBT flag flying on public buildings, which maybe some conservatives in the US and Republicans would support that, but certainly this is a very conservative Islamist perspective. And I interviewed locals there who felt uncomfortable, liberals who said that the gay people in particular feel uncomfortable, even feel at risk at being in that Muslim majority city. And I think Islam is spreading throughout the United States through Dawah, this kind of doctrine of trying to convert people to Islamism. And there's a huge amount of money being invested across America into different mosques to try and convert people. And I interviewed various Muslims in mosques in Detroit, and they said they've seen a huge spike in conversions to Islam since the October 7th attacks, in Israel, where you had over 1,000 Jews being murdered by Hamas. That actually weirdly inspired people to convert to Islam, to become Muslim. And we had lots of people in mosques around Detroit, which they describe as the Mecca of Islam in America, saying that they'd converted dozens of people since those attacks to Islam.
And Steve Edgington, Donald Trump, of course, is about to be sworn in now in less than 3 weeks' time. Do you think he'll do something about this? Is this a nettle that you think he will firmly grasp?
I think he's shown that he is concerned about radical Islam in the past, again, through his Muslim ban, so-called Muslim ban, when he was president in his first term, where he restricted immigration from certain Muslim majority countries. And again, he's also talked about mass deportations. That's deportations of illegal immigrants in the United States, millions and millions of people who have come in under Joe Biden's presidency. And I think his point is many people we don't know who many of these people are. We don't know their background. We don't know where they came from. We don't know their criminal past. We don't know whether they're extremist, whether they're Islamist or not. And last year, we saw various arrests of ISIS supporting illegal immigrants throughout the United States. So yes, I think Donald Trump is looking at this issue very seriously. This attack has brought it to the forefront of American news and politics. And I think as he becomes president on January the 20th, this will be one of his main priorities, particularly on the deportations front, to get rid of some of the more radical preachers here in America, but also those illegal aliens who've crossed the border and may support ISIS and other terrorist groups.
And Steve Edgerton, quickly for our viewers, your excellent documentary, how can viewers see it?
They can go onto YouTube, they can type in GB News, and they can find it. It's called America's Muslim City. They can look up America's Muslim City.
It's an excellent piece of work. I recommend that you watch that this weekend. Thank you very much, Steve Edgerton, for joining us live from Washington, D.C. Always a pleasure. Now, moving on, if you're in search of some winter sun this year, and who can blame you with the weather here in Blighty, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Cloudy skies across eastern parts of Europe, including some showers for southern parts of Italy and also parts of Greece, and also some rain and strong winds affecting the west. This will move into Madeira later on Saturday, also affecting northern parts of Portugal, western parts of France too. More in the way of sunshine across central parts of the Mediterranean, but cloudier further east, with a risk of showers across southern parts of Italy and also the Greek islands too. And more in the way of sunshine next week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Last orders at the bar, and I'm joined by Geordie Shore star Ricky Guanaccio. Have I said that right? Is that Italian?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Italian, your parents Italian?
Is it? Pronunciation was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, look, mate, Geordie Shore, I've never watched it, mate, so I do apologise about that. But I know these reality TV shows are making big stars out of the people, making you famous, making you loads of money. Is it worth it?
For me personally, yeah. It's been a hell of a career. Been a hell of a lot of fun doing it, ups and downs, but first and foremost, money-wise, yeah.
That's good. So people stopping in the street, you being famous, wanting the autograph and all. How do you cope with that, Ricky?
Well, when we first started doing the show, I mean, we got our show off the back of Jersey Shore in America. We never expected the fame that we got, and you know, being one of the biggest reality TV shows in the UK and now the world. You know, it's in 150 odd countries worldwide. Wow. It's pretty crazy. It's when you're living in houses. I mean, for example, Geordie Shore and Love Island's probably the same as well. When you're living in villas and you're living in houses, the arguing side sort of plays on your mind. You've got to deal with all that. You know, it's a hard place to be. It's a pressure cooker.
You're living in one of these villas, Ricky, or one of these houses. Do you ever wake up one morning and think, "What am I doing here?"
When I first started, yes. Yeah. Now I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't mind all the, you know, there's no emotion connecting me now with filming. It's kind of like I go in there, it's fun, or it's, you know, it's dramatic, whatever it may be.
Have you ever worked behind a bar?
No.
No?
Yeah, for not a long period of time. My mum and dad had a...
Well, I can
definitely messed this one up.
Yeah, I can actually believe that you've never worked behind a bar.
Yeah, so my parents sacked us when I worked in the restaurant.
Well, obviously, I mean, you wouldn't get a job here with a pint like that, would you?
Do you want it?
No, mate, no.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 10 to 6 on Friday with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News Now. We cannot wait for this because darts superstar Luke Littler could become the youngest ever world champion as he faces three-time champion Michael van Gerwen tonight. And the 17-year-old was runner-up last year, of course, and is full of confidence this time after blitzing into the final. But can he make history? Can he win where last year he faltered? Who else to ask that question to but the man, the legend, the darts god. It's Bobby George. Bobby, always an absolute delight, my old son, to see you. Can he do it? Last year we all wanted him to. He was young. Maybe the occasion got to him. Do you think that setback could be the missing piece of the jigsaw to give him that rocket boost to do it this time?
Well, when I first watched him play in the first World Championship, he got to the final. That was a tremendous effort, really. I mean, a 16-year-old guy doing it. No one ever seen that. And I thought, well, see if he can get back the next year. Well, he got back into the final. So there's no flukes in him. There's a lot of lukes, but no flukes. He won quite a lot of the tournaments in the PDC as well. He's played. He won the Premier League, which is very hard. He's played all the tough players in the world. So he's got a bit more experience now than he did before. He didn't know what was happening. He just played darts. Now he knows the score. And when you think his age and the way he plays, I mean, I watched him last night. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable how he throws them darts and the 180s he gets. That's what gets me. I'd love to see it. The 180s is great. But he's hit 36 180s in this tournament so far. Now, he's going to hit at least 14, maybe 15 more tonight. That's 50 180s in a tournament. No one's ever done that. No one. So that is the score. He's got so much scoring power. And when I watched him yesterday, he played bunting. Bunting leaves 40, and he's got, say, 108 left, and he goes out. He's done it all the time to bunting. He just beat bunting up. He just couldn't handle the skill he had. And he doesn't look like he's aiming. He just looks where he's throwing, and he throws where he's looking. You know, he's on all the time. And he's playing Michael, which is a very, very good dart player. Michael's got all the experience. I've known him since he's 13. And when he can turn it on, Michael can really turn it on. But I don't think he can outscore Lipper. That's the thing. If you can outscore your opponent or every leg you play, even if you haven't got the darts, and then check out, he can't beat you. So Littler, he gets 180, 140, so leaves a shot. The other guy's behind all the time. He hasn't got a shot out of a double, and he goes out. And he's done it every game he's played, nearly, all the way through. Oh, yeah, like Joyce, he gave him a tough, game. But he does it all the time. So he's got a gift that I've never seen anyone that young have that gift. I mean, there's a lot of youngsters good out there. You think last year, he went in the WDF and he didn't even get the last 32. Then he goes into PDC Youth, he wins that. And they say, OK, you go to the men's. They just put him in thinking, he's a nice boy.
All right, Bobby, I've got a call time there. Otherwise, you're going to be talking all the way until the final kicks off tonight when the hockey gets in there. Ali, have a great... Enjoy it, Bobby George. Always an absolute pleasure to have you. What a great way to end the week. That's all from me. But don't worry, because up next is Tubes & Co., the fierce debate show in town. But now it's your weather with Honor Crizzy. I'll be back Monday at 3 o'clock. Have a fantastic weekend.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead with multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice, so do keep an eye on the Met Office website for those. For Friday, though, there's been plenty of sunshine around as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. A few showery outbreaks around coastal areas, though. Those are set to continue into the overnight period. And as soon as that sun dips away, it is going to turn very cold once again. Icy stretches across northern areas where we do have a yellow Met Office warning in force, and even across southern areas likely to see a sharp frost and also a risk of ice here too. But largely dry, plenty of clear spells, but as I say, a very chilly night on offer, most areas seeing below zero temperatures. to start on Saturday. Once again, there will be lots of bright weather around. Across Scotland still, we're still likely to see these showers falling mostly as rain, but we may also see some sleet and snow, mainly across high ground across northern parts of Scotland, but may also see some flurries to lower levels too. Once again, a few showers feeding in around western coasts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales, northwest England also, but most places seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the day, but once again feeling cold with a sharp frost and also some ice in places too, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning. And through Saturday, once again we see fairly similar conditions, some showers in the north, lots of dry weather around too, but a change is on its way as we start to see an unsettled spell move in from the southwest. Outbreaks of rain here, falling as sleet and snow to high ground, possibly towards the end of the day across southern parts of Wales and southwest England. So largely dry, yes, but starting to see a change as we head into the afternoon through into the evening on Saturday. And this will continue to push its way northwards across the country. We may even see some freezing rain across southern parts of Wales. That could also lead to some quite widespread icy stretches. So an unsettled weekend ahead, more sunshine into next week, but it is going to remain cold.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Major problems continue for the M40 in Warwickshire this evening. The motorway remains closed southbound from junction 16 to 15 from the Henley and Arden turn-off down to the Warwick bypass after a lorry caught fire, causing long queues back to the M42, back up the Warwick bypass, and as you come off the motorway down the Birmingham Road into Henley and Arden as you divert. Meanwhile, in Leicestershire, the A47